It's the Monday Mirror edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We will be taking a look back at a big weekend in sports, particularly here locally, and getting you ready for the upcoming holiday week. Wade, happy Monday. What's up?
Good Monday to you. And you're right. We got a lot to tap into, and a lot of it is locally based. So I'm pumped. Stretch our legs out on a little Monday for a couple hours and have a good time this afternoon.
Absolutely. We'll be here for the next couple of hours discussing sports of local, regional, and national importance. So stick around. Later in the show, we are going to bring in Stephen HARGIS, sports editor at the Chattanooga Times Free Press, because he's got a football coach who will be honored tonight in Boston as the National Federation of High Schools Hall of Fame induction class will be honored. And among that class will be Boyd Buchanan's Gary Rankin. You may know him better as Alcoa's Gary Rankin or as Riverdale's Gary Rankin, or for those of us of a certain age, Smith County's Gary Rankin. But he is the winningest high school football coach in Tennessee history and fourth nationally in that category currently, seventh all time. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that and his big honor again in the second hour with Stephen HARGIS of the Chattanooga Times Free Press. In our next segment, we will be visiting with Ann Killian of Penalty Box Radio, because the Predators, speaking of big weekends, have had one and extended it into today. So we're going to get with her and just make sure that we've not missed anything between, say, 10:30 this morning and now. But if there's anything going on with the Preds, Ann Killian will know. Ann Kimmel will know about it, and we're going to bring her in and talk a little bit about that. Also, we'll be talking a little Braves, talking about the Astros trip to the Big Apple this weekend. Pretty productive. And there was some racing here locally this weekend, and it was so good that it took a little extra time yesterday. So we'll be diving into that as well. But again, a lot going on this weekend. We're going to try to get to all of it here in the next couple of hours, so stick around. Wade, I saw your shirt.
Joey Logano, baby, repping. Winners win.
Did you buy that before or after the fifth overtime last night?
That was that. Luckily, that was a pre. That was a gift from a friend who is a sponsor. The Hunt Brothers logo is plastered all over that bad boy, and he proved worthy of that sponsorship yesterday. You're right, 5 overtimes, crazy situation with tons of weather getting involved, but he gets it done. So I had to show a little love today for our boy Joey.
Well, much deserved love, as you said, and very prescient on the part of whoever gave that to you prior to, because that's good stuff. Logano,
I've had it for like 2 months, but I was like, why? When am I going to wear a Joey Logano shirt? And then
today.
Yeah, exactly. Fate has found me, so it worked out well. So this is the extent of my NASCAR wardrobe, but at least we're repping today, so it's good times.
Hey, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
100%. 100%.
Absolutely. Hey, again, that's what we've got lined up here for the next little bit. Let's go ahead and dive into it with this weekend's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Let's dive into the Monday Rundown, folks. Monday's Rundown is always brought to you by our friends at Zion Christian Academy. ZCA offers a faith-based, Christ-centered education in Murray County. So give them a call today at 931-388-5831 or visit them online at zioneagles.org to schedule your appointment today. That's Zion Christian Academy, prepared for college, equipped for purpose.
Major League Baseball results from the weekend of our interest. On Friday, the Mets downed Houston 7-2, Atlanta with a 6-1 win over Pittsburgh. On Saturday, it was the Astros 9, the Mets 6, and the Braves 2, the Pirates 1. The Barbs were Sunday, as Pittsburgh got out of town with a 4-2 victory on Sunday. The Astros in 11 innings. Picked up a 10-5 victory over the Mets. We'll talk more about that one later in the show. Sounds action from Duval. It was Nashville 6, Jacksonville 2 on Friday. Flip it, Jacksonville 6, Nashville 4 on Saturday. And on getaway day yesterday, the Sounds get out with a 7-6 win over the Jumbo Shrimp.
Good dub for the Sounds to close out that series. WNBA scores go all the way back to Friday, where it was Atlanta knocking off Connecticut 78-75 was your score there. Phoenix defeated the Sparks 92-78 on Friday night. Saturday now, it was the Aces 88 and the Mystics 77. Storm put up 97 points. Big number for the Seattle Storm as they knock off Dallas Wings 97 again to 76. And then a triple header yesterday as the Liberty defeated Atlanta 81-75. The Fever with a nice win versus Phoenix 88-82. And the Minnesota Lynx defeated the Chicago Sky 70-62. MLS, we talked about it a lot on the show Friday. No Messi, no problem. 2 goals yet again for Inter Miami. That seems to be their lucky number versus Nashville as they knocked off the boys in gold. It was a 2-1 victory for visiting Miami to cap Saturday's MLS scoreboard.
Major League Baseball action today. Houston continues its road trip, goes north of the border, taking on the Blue Jays. First pitch any minute now, actually. The Sounds, with a rare Monday game, they open a series at Memphis, 7:05 tonight at AutoZone Park. In WNBA action, a couple of late games, 9 o'clock. Connecticut is at Phoenix. Also, Dallas is at Seattle. That game can be seen on NBA TV. Both those 9 o'clock. Get you a nap after we go off the air. That is your rundown. Top story brought to you, as always, by Piggly Wiggly over at Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch items, which are available until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And it feels, Wade, like we've been talking about this forever, but it is July 1st, and the Southeastern Conference is calling it a new era of more as they welcome Oklahoma University and the University of Texas into their membership, bringing the total membership of the SEC to 16. Big day.
Yeah, you're right. This is one that's been in the works for a while, and we've talked about all the hype, the hoopla, and it's finally here. And no surprise that Texas, Oklahoma, and the SEC all collabed and really kind of blew this out of the water. There's been a lot of fanfare about these moves since they've been announced, and it is officially official. You know, rubber has met road, so to speak, as they join the SEC, the new era of more. And I'm excited to see what happens here as they transition now into SEC life.
As only the Southeastern Conference can. Nice little logo that they have put out for this occasion. The newly, I guess, updated SEC logo. Mark, you got that? I mean, it's nothing overwhelming. It's just an adaptation of what they've had for years. But if you look right around the 9 o'clock hour on your clock face, you will see the 2 latest additions to the SEC. Oklahoma sitting there at about 8:30 and Texas at about 9:10, roughly. So, nice little visual there. And again, as we have said, Wade, on so many occasions, this is obviously a football move, but it won't just be football that's impacted by this, because you are welcoming 4-time defending softball champion Oklahoma into the mix, as well as a Texas athletic program that I think they just won the Learfield All Sports Trophy this year, actually. I think it was Texas, Stanford, and Tennessee were your top three. So while it has always while it has just meant more in the SEC, it's also meant a lot to these two athletic programs as well. So be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, this is a chance for Texas and Oklahoma, who kind of Texas for sure, obviously. Oklahoma kind of has always been the somewhat forgotten piece in this whole equation, but they view themselves as national brands. And joining the SEC, they're not kind of just joining, just hoping and wishing, giving it the old college try, hoping we do okay. I mean, they're coming to mean business, and we, remember, go back to Texas A&M when they joined the SEC and caught lightning in a bottle during those Sumlin and Johnny Manziel years. I mean, they joined in a flurry. And Texas kind of comes in, especially if we're just talking football, through all the other sports, which they're great at, out to the side. They come in with national championship aspirations this year. They're going to be a top 3 team in the preseason rankings. And so they're not coming in just to mess around. They're coming out for big dog titles here this year.
They are both intending to announce their presence with authority, particularly Texas, as you said. And they're not sneaking in. Quinn Ewers over the weekend, I think it was, made a comment that we're everybody's biggest game. Now, I'm not sure how accurate that is, but they are. I mean, they're a big game. I don't know that they're everybody's biggest game, but a lot of expected out of Texas this year, and so there's going to be a lot of eyes on them, especially with their new conference affiliation. Again, are they everybody's biggest game? I think it's arguable, but I mean, I don't know. What else are you going to say?
Yeah, this year in particular, they're going to get everybody's best shot. And to your point, Mo, how about this? They already know how to play the game, because I got a couple Texas friends in the area, and they've already copied the playbook that a lot of other SEC schools have done. They already know how to get tickets to the Vanderbilt game. They went ahead and bought season tickets to Vanderbilt, like so many other schools do, just to make sure they get their tickets for their games. So they come in kind of knowing what they're getting into. So that was refreshing to see, that even though they're new to the conference, they kind of know how the game needs to be played in that regard.
Again, Texas is the Learfield Directors Cup champion for 2024. They won national championships this past school year in women's volleyball and women's rowing, along with runner-up finishes in women's swimming and diving, softball, where they were runner-up to Oklahoma, former Big 12 rival Oklahoma, and men's tennis. So Stanford number 2, Tennessee number 3. So it by the way, Florida was 4th and Virginia was 5th in that all-encompassing competition there. So, it does mean a lot for Texas, and it's going to be an interesting marriage, obviously. You used the term fanfare, Wade, regarding Texas and Oklahoma coming into the conference, and there's a lot of celebrating and festivities going on both the Austin and Norman campuses today. With a little less fanfare, Conference USA welcomes its 10th member, Kennesaw State, out of Georgia. Today is their first day in CUSA after previously competing in the Atlantic Sun or ASUN conference, which they had been in since 2005. Kennesaw competes in 18 sports. They will be bringing 17 of those to Conference USA. And I think that's interesting just because it gives Conference USA a presence in the Atlanta demographic area, I guess, where a lot of these schools already recruit, particularly Middle Tennessee State, Jackson State, Liberty, and Western Kentucky, I would imagine. Maybe La Tech to a lesser degree, but in Atlanta is one of the largest metropolitan areas in the country, and there's a lot of athletic talent over there, and so the ability to recruit to that area and tell folks, hey, we're going to be able to get you back home and that kind of thing, I would imagine is a big deal for all of the schools in this conference. And it also gets them to 10 for football, which is no small feat.
Yeah, that's a big get for all those reasons you just mentioned. And Kennesaw State coming in, not as much of a puffing of the chest type situation as Texas and Oklahoma, certainly,
Sure.
but it's a big move for that recruiting edge, filling out the roster. The CUSA, kind of crazy to think about. But, they were kind of looking grim just a few years ago, but they have rebounded nicely. Delaware, Missouri State are going to be joining in next season. So, I mean, they kind of have picked themselves up off the mat in that regard. And Kennesaw State comes in. I mean, they're not a complete slouch. They're competitive in several sports. And so coming in, expanding that footprint, kind of getting into that metro market, that bigger metropolitan area market is huge for not only the league, but like you said, fantastic point. The other members are going to benefit from their membership as well.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, Delaware and Missouri State will come in at this time next year. And for a conference that you didn't know if they were going to continue to exist not so long ago. Now, I mean, when you start, as Ronnie Carter of the TSSAA would say, when you start putting dots on the map, it doesn't always make a whole lot of sense, but just the fact that Judy McLeod and that bunch has been able to kind of hold a conference together when it wasn't necessarily a given that was going to be the case. Hats off to them for being able to do that.
Big move for them. And you mentioned the dots on the map. This one's not official per se. We're celebrating the official ones today, but we do got to pour one out for the Pac-12 as they're down to the Pac-2 now. And it's going to be a tough go of it, but got to pour one out. And then officially Cal and Stanford are not in the ACC till like August 12th or something. There's a random date that they don't officially join, which of course, why not? But SMU does come in today, and also Army comes in football only. So it's a one in, one out type situation as we pour one out for the Pac-12, but several conferences have bolstered their membership today. And yeah, the Pac-2 just doesn't kind of have the same ring to it, I don't feel like.
No, it doesn't. And as you pour one out for the Pac-12, also pour one out for the Power 5, which now becomes the Power 4 with the dissolution of the Pac-12 conference. So lot of shifting landscapes across college athletics these days. And for all of the talk, a lot of stuff is now beginning to become official again. Texas and Oklahoma celebrating their arrivals to the SEC officially today. And we will definitely have to be on our toes as we discuss various sports going forward to continue to make sure that we've got the right schools and the right conferences. So study up, Wade.
Yeah, and like you said, dots on a map. Stanford and Cal, not exactly what you would think of in terms of the Atlantic Coast Conference, but, I digress, right?
Here we are. UCLA, USC to the Big 10, 12, 16, whatever it is. Again, we're going to need rosters for all of this. Going to need rosters for Predators hockey as well. When we return to the Lee Company studios after this break, we will be joined by Ann Kimmel of Penalty Box Radio, who is going to help get us up to speed on who the members of the Nashville Predators are. So stay tuned after this break.
Bluegrass Auction Associates is hosting another estate auction in White House, Tennessee on Saturday, July 20th at 10 a.m. Join Bluegrass as they sell the Judy Matthews Honeycutt Estate, conveniently located in the scenic Orchard Park subdivision. This beautiful estate includes both real estate and personal property, so everything must go. Everything will be sold on-site and in person, and a 10% buyer's premium is added to the final bid. So bid with confidence with Bluegrass Auction Associates, committed to excellence.
We thrive under the lights. a city of performers, putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
The Monday Mirror edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We are coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective abodes as we take a look back at the weekend here on the Monday Mirror. And what a weekend it has been for our favorite ice hockey team. Began with a draft in Vegas on Friday and Saturday and continued into some free agency action today to get us caught up, hopefully. We've got Ann Kimmel of Penley Box Radio joining us. Ann, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm excited to be here with you guys. And man, a lot can happen in a little time when it comes to the Nashville Predators.
Well, clearly, and let me ask you, that's that's a little bit of a departure from the norm for that franchise, is it not?
Yeah, I think Barry Trotz is really embracing this role as the general manager, and he is not afraid, clearly, to make some really big moves when it comes to free agency. He was not afraid when it came draft time to tell his scouts, I want you guys to swing for the fences on some guys, take some risks. And that's what they did at the draft. And boy, he came out this morning in free agency and has really changed the Nashville Predators roster and perhaps changed expectations for this team next season as well.
And, you know, when we talk about expectations, we talked about expectations maybe being down a little bit for this team last year in its first season under new leadership, both from the general manager's position and from the coaching position. And they kind of blew those expectations out of the water. So they just continue to kind of blow up expectations as far as that goes.
Well, and I thought maybe this coming season would be the season that really sort of hurt a little bit. I thought, they really surprised everyone last season. They had really good additions with Gustav Nyquist and Ryan O'Reilly, but would they be able to recreate their offensive production next year? So I thought, okay, this 2024-25 season, this may be the season that hurts Nashville Predators fans. Well, it sure doesn't look like that now. Barry Trotz went out this morning, signed Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, Brady Shea on defense, also got a backup goaltender, which is the goaltending situation's a whole conversation now with the Predators. But it really changes when you add pieces like that to the Predators. It changes, again, what this team may be capable of in the postseason.
So go ahead, Wade.
I was just going to ask, and out of these three signings, I mean, they all three have their own unique and very exciting merits. Which one of those immediately jumps out to you as, in your mind, the best per se, or the most needed in your mind?
I have to say, when the rumors were circulating that the Predators could be in on Steven Stamkos, I thought, you know what, that would be huge. I understand that he's an older veteran, 34 years old, but this is a guy who, even if his best hockey is behind him, his next best hockey is 40 goal seasons. And that's something the Nashville Predators absolutely would want. So going into today, I thought, it would be amazing if they could sign a player like Stamkos. For me, he really is a franchise-changing signing. This is like a Paul Correa move. This is like a trading Shea Weber for PK Subban move. Like this could really change what Nashville can do in the next 2 to 3 years. So for me, that is a huge move. Now, add on top of that, they bring in Jonathan Marchessault, which is no coincidence. They talked after the news was announced, and Marchessault said, "Hey, I called up Steven Stamkos and said, hey, I'm thinking about Nashville. I heard Nashville's talking to you." And they decided, look, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it together. So the two of them together is way more than I think even Predators fans could dare hope for. And then you shore up the defense with somebody like Brady Shea. And it really is, this has been a day that I think Predators fans will go to bed tonight feeling very, very differently about the season than they did when they woke up first thing this morning.
Yeah, you got to recalibrate, like we've touched on, your expectations a little bit. You mentioned Marchessault, and obviously Stamkos coming in, and I was talking with a friend, and who follows hockey a little more closely than I. And I was like, "How do you break this down?" He said, "Man, you just added 82 goals to your roster, basically." And for a franchise that at times, and especially in the playoffs, it seemed like those games against Vancouver could have gone either way, but we just couldn't quite find the back of the net. For me, these are two big-time signings, and then Shea, obviously, solid at the defensive position as well.
The Nashville Predators got a really good surprise last season with their top line of Philip Forsberg, Ryan O'Reilly, and Gustav Nyquist. And they were really terrific together. But that was about the only line that they got consistent goal scoring from. You add these two pieces of Stamkos and Marchessault to this team, and not only do you add the 82 goals that they scored combined last season, but you also make whoever plays with them a better offensive player as well. So, how these lines are going to shake out when it comes to the top six, I'm not sure yet. I've hardly had time to process it, to start formulating what I think Andrew Brunette should do. But you look at young players like Luke Evangelista, and you think, Luke Evangelista on a line with perhaps Jonathan Marchessault or Steven Stamkos, you just make Luke Evangelista, a young player, so much better offensively. So there is going to be a trickle-down effect, I think, from adding these guys to the forward core that I think is very exciting. And like you said, Nashville needed more scoring up and down the lineup, and this will give them that.
And KIMMEL of Penalty Box Radio joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by TOA of Columbia. Sky, meanwhile, scored 47 points this past season. So not necessarily a goal scorer, but that's another piece that kind of impacts the offense as well.
It does. And that was something that Andrew Brunette really wanted to get more of from the defense. They talked about we want to get a little bigger defensively because if you think back to that Vancouver series, Vancouver really manhandled Nashville in a lot of ways. They had bigger defensemen. They were clearing space in front of the net. And Andrew Burnett and Barry Trotz have both said, we want to get some size. Well, you just got 6 feet 3 inches of Brady Shea. And so that's great. But like you mentioned, you also get a guy who scored 13 goals last season, 16 goals the season before, that adds another little bit of offense. And if you can add offense, with this really strong top six, but then also get some more goal scoring from your defense and from, your bottom six as well. It really changes what Nashville is going to be able to do in games. So this is a great addition to the blue line as well.
From what I'm able to gather, it feels like Stamkos didn't necessarily want to leave Tampa Bay. I mean, does he kind of come in here with a chip on his shoulder as far as that goes?
I think there are definitely going to be some feelings to work through for Steven Stamkos because I do think that he was very willing to stay in Tampa Bay. And he said today in an interview, it felt like Tampa Bay was done trying to make a deal well before he was ready to be done making a deal. So I do think that there are going to be some hard feelings coming in for Steven Stamkos, and he's going to come in with something to prove. Now, the upside is whatever he wants to prove, he has the ability to do that wherever he's at. And Nashville will happily reap the benefits of any angst that may linger. So I do think there is an element of how that was handled. I think that the fan base in Tampa Bay is a little bit frustrated about how Stamkos was treated by the front office through the course of their decision making as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how Stamkos kind of uses that as fuel for him. He is also very excited to be in Nashville, talked about, I want to be on a team that wants to win. And when you look at the Predators locker room, you've got Ryan O'Reilly and you've got Roman Josi and you've got Gustav Nyquist. You've got Luke Schenn, who's won a Stanley Cup in there. This is a locker room that really wants to do what they have to do to win. And so I think there's a draw to Nashville, but I also think there's going to be some lingering feelings as he walks away from Tampa Bay as well.
And as we get these three big signings out of the way, they kind of seemingly caught a lot of us off guard and just the specter or, the wow factor. What else is out there in terms of free agency for Nashville as far as needs and wants, I suppose?
It's funny. If you had told me this morning, that Nashville, who had been linked to Stamkos, who had been linked to Brady Shea, maybe Jonathan Marchessault, if they had landed one of them, I would have said, this is huge. Well, they got all three of them. So I almost don't want to be greedy right now. And I do think that maybe Nashville might not make another bigger move in the sense that they want to have some slots for a couple of these younger players. Barry Trotz talked about this is going to be a reset that's going to bring up some of these younger players from Milwaukee. I think they may be done with sort of those bigger moves because they'll want to leave spots open for some young players to battle for an opportunity to play in Nashville this season. We are waiting for word whether Alexander Carrier, a defenseman, is going to re-sign with the Predators. Word was yesterday that they were close to a deal, but we haven't heard anything specifically yet. So we're keeping an eye on that. Nashville did lose free agents Kiefer Sherwood, who signed with Vancouver, and Jason Zucker, who they got at the trade deadline, who I really would have liked to see back, but he is moving on. He's got a 1-year deal for $5 million with Buffalo, and I don't think Nashville was going to pay him $5 million. So, I can see where he went there.
And you've kind of mentioned it. You've kind of talked around it a little bit, but in addition to this big three of signings, a little under the radar, they also signed goaltender Scott Wedgwood for 2 years. And so when you talk about leaving slots open for young guys, Yaroslav Askarov may or may not have a slot. I mean, and you said it at the onset of this segment, the goalkeeping situation is a whole different conversation. Well, let's have it because they signed Wedgwood. supposedly another signing or an extension maybe is coming for a certain goalkeeper as well.
Yes.
What's going on?
That's a great question. The word leaked this weekend before the draft that UC Saros is expected to sign an 8-year, $7.74 million a year deal with the Nashville Predators. And a lot of people might not like that. I think it's a deal that makes the Nashville Predators better now. I think it's a deal that does make the Nashville Predators better for a window a few years from now. But it raises the question, what do you do with this amazing young goaltending prospect, Yaroslav Askarov? And Barry Trotz said, look, when that news leaked, his phone was ringing at the draft from teams saying, hey, what are you doing with Yaroslav Askarov? Because this is a piece that a lot of teams are going to be interested in. Nothing happened. He didn't hear anything that tempted him. And now they go ahead and they sign Wedgwood to a 2-year deal. And the thought is that it's going to be Saros Wedgwood in net in Nashville. So where does that leave Yaroslav Askarov? I will tell you, as somebody who watches a whole bunch of Milwaukee hockey, first of all, he is an amazing talent. This is a player who I think is definitely going to be an NHL goaltender. He is a ton of fun to watch. He still needs a little more time. And you really can't over marinate a goaltender, except if you were that goaltender, you think, I'm done, I'm ready, put me in, coach. And so I do think the hitch in the giddy up of all of this is going to be, how does Yaroslav Askarov feel with them signing Scott Wedgwood to a 2-year deal? That really means his window to get even the backup job in Nashville is now maybe pushed out a couple seasons. He may not like that. But again, this is a young guy. He's just turned 22 years old. He's got a lot of time ahead of him and could use some more time, I think, in Milwaukee. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I do think teams are going to continue to pursue an opportunity to trade Yaroslav Askarov. We'll see if Barry Trotz is remotely interested in that.
And I'm curious. Sorry, Mo. I was just
no.
It is a fascinating situation in the sense you have a prospect that everybody seems to think is a surefire hit, or at least going to be certainly a capable netminder at the next level. But you've kind of got a really solid option right now. It almost seems like the Preds have a great situation, especially if Saros can kind of return to the form that we've seen him display at times throughout his career.
Absolutely. This is the best goaltending problem you could possibly have. You have UC Saros coming off of what was statistically his worst season, but that statistical worst season finished him 5th in Vezina voting. So that tells you that this is a guy who really is very, very good. And he gives Nashville a ton of stability. This is an 8-year deal. I think a lot of people would have liked a shorter term. But if I'm UC Saros, I'm taking a long term. He wants to retire a Nashville Predator. I don't blame him for wanting to take that kind of a long-term deal. And I do think he could have gotten paid more somewhere else. So, thank you, UC Saros, for being willing to take a little bit less money to stay with the Predators. But you do have this great prospect coming up and you can take time with him and you don't have to rush him. And no matter how he may feel about it, the more time you have to develop somebody, especially in net, I think the more that will pay off long term. So I don't necessarily think this Wedgwood signing means it's over for Yaroslav Askarov, and I don't think it means that he doesn't have a future with the Predators.
Yeah, a chance just to get a little extra dash of that seasoning that you kind of spoke to there. Hey, real quickly, also, we talked about Stamkos. Producer Mark has found, he's great at what he does, by the way, and so he found a pic of Stamkos, who's already been spotted basically in Nashville attire. And
oh, come on.
So I mean, hey, from the outdoor classic, from the Winter Classic a couple of years ago, he's already been spotted basically in a cowboy outfit. So it seems like a natural fit, right?
Somebody save that man a table at Tootsie's and call it done, because he is ready for Nashville.
He's ready to rock and roll.
Quite comfortable. He looks quite comfortable in that outfit for sure. And Kimmel of Penalty Box Radio joining us here on Main Street Sports today. What can you tell us about Scott Wedgwood? I know he's coming from Dallas, but where does it? He's clearly a number 2 goalie, I guess.
He is. He's definitely a backup goaltender. He's a very good backup goaltender. He played 27 games, I believe, in Dallas. Didn't necessarily end up with stats that are going to knock your socks off, but Dallas also, he played in some pretty challenging games for them and did pretty well. So I think this is a really good person to back up UC Saros. Remember, UC Saros plays a lot of games. So you really need a backup goaltender for fewer games probably with the Nashville Predators than you would other teams. I've heard great things about him personally, that he is a great team guy, a great locker room guy as well, a lot of experience in net. So I think this is a good get. Personally, I loved Kevin Lankinen. I would have liked to see the Preds re-sign him as a backup, but this is a guy who wants to compete for a starting job somewhere, and I think he has a good chance at winning a starting job somewhere. So the Predators went out and got Wedgwood, and I think this is going to be a good fit.
It's funny, Ann. The thing that I had initially reached out to you to come on and talk about is the last thing we're going to discuss. The Predators took Igor Surin in the first round of the NHL draft on Friday, a forward from Russia, and then picked up 5 more forwards, along with a defenseman and a goalie in the 2-day event. None of these guys is going to impact this year's Predators team, obviously, but from what you gather, what are your thoughts regarding the team's draft performance?
The team went in with 9 picks and came home with 8 prospects. And I think they came home with some really interesting players with a lot of potential. You mentioned Igor Surin. That's who they took with their first pick in the first round. This is a young Russian. And when you talk about a player that has an identity that matches what Andrew Brunette has been preaching all last year and that Barry Trotz has talked about, this is a young player who is nonstop, always going, always pursuing the puck. He plays very hard, even when he doesn't have the puck. He does have 2 more years on a contract in Russia, so we're not going to see him anytime soon. But this is a player to be really excited about. And they also had a couple other players that I think were those swing for the fences players. You know, Teddy Stiga, they took at number 55. This is a really smart player. They talked about him as being maybe one of the most improved prospects over the course of last season. Very smart player, could end up being one of those players you look back 5 years from now and say, I can't believe the Predators got him at 55. So they really got a number of players. They got the defenseman, they picked up a bigger sized guy that they wanted to make sure that they added some size defensively as well, and just some players that have some standout skills. So I think this was a draft class that came away really reflecting the identity of Andrew Brunette and Barry Trotz and kind of this new chapter for the franchise.
Interesting. It's so tough, I guess, when you talk about the NHL draft, because as you said, so few of these guys get here, anytime soon, unless it's really a phenom, and you don't get phenoms at number 22. So
True.
Definitely a wait and see prospect there when you're talking about the Preds in the NHL draft. But Ann Kimmel of Penalty Box Radio joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Ann, we really appreciate your insight, and it was really timely with everything that has gone on today, and we'll be keeping up and reaching back out to you as needed should the Predators choose to continue this flurry.
Yeah, they may keep shopping. You just never know. Barry Trotz still has a little change left, so we'll see when he finishes.
Absolutely. Hey, we appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ann.
All right. When we continue from the Lee Company Studios here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, we'll be talking a little Major League Baseball. So stay with us after this break.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
July 1st, 1999. After the Atlanta bullpen had blown leads in each of the team's last two contests, Tom Glavine scatters 7 hits in going the distance as the Braves win 4-1 at Montreal. The visitors scored all the runs they need on a Ryan Klesko 2-run double in their opening at bat. Glavine improves to 7-7 on the season while defeating the Expos for the 13th straight time, a stretch that dates back to 1994. Prior to his current streak, the lefty had been 3-13 against the Canadian squad. That was this day in Braves history. Glavine kind of taking the Pedro Serrano approach. I'll do it myself in picking up that complete game victory here, 25 years ago today.
Man, and beautiful segue going straight from hockey into Tom Glavine. We love the way you pulled that off there. Well, tip of the cap to you.
You know, what did we say earlier? Better lucky than good?
Sometimes it just works out that way. Man, he was fun to watch, brother.
No doubt. Unless you were on the other team. Yeah. Could have used him this weekend, yesterday in particular. Spencer Schwellenbach throws brilliantly, with the exception of the 5th inning when he got touched up for a pair of 2-run home runs, and that was all Pittsburgh would need as the Braves offense took Sunday off in a 4-2 Pirates victory to close out that 3-game series after Atlanta had won the first 2 games, as we mentioned in the rundown earlier in the show. Again, Schwellenbach, 5 innings, 7 strikeouts, 2 walks, gives up 5 hits, but 4 runs, all of them were earned. And again, a couple of 2-run homers, both of which were crushed, one by O'Neill Cruz and one by Rowdy Tellez. And that was all the damage Pittsburgh did, but it was all they need to do as Schwellenbach falls to 1-4 with that loss. And I mean, the only way to get through the order the third time is to get through the order the third time. Schwellenbach's ERA doubles from his second time through the lineup to the third time, and got to figure something out. But there's plenty to work with there, clearly. So, keep running him out there, and hopefully he makes the tweaks and gets the gets the insight from some of the older heads on that pitching staff and Rick Kranitz and can figure some things out, because the talent's there. I don't think there's any question about that. It's just folks are getting on him that third time through, and that's been the MO in each of his 5 starts. So one thing that the Braves did manage to do yesterday, though, was finally stop former Vandy boy, former Brentwood High School standout Brian Reynolds, who went into yesterday's game with a 25-game hitting streak, which he extended, I think it was Friday, with a 9th inning triple. So living a little dangerously, but he went 0 for 4 yesterday with a pair of strikeouts. His 25-game hitting streak was the longest this year in Major League Baseball. And for the Pirates, it was their longest since Kenny Lofton hit in 26 straight back in 2003. So he's been rolling.
Shut him down. We've talked about, how well he's been playing and doing a little bit of everything, mashing homers, like you said, hitting triples. I mean, this guy's been doing it all. So all good things must come to an end, I suppose, right?
Yeah. And made a nice diving catch late in yesterday's game as well. So he's getting it done with both the bat and the glove, and he's a perennial all-star candidate since he's gotten to Pittsburgh pretty much. Braves off today before they continue their homestand against visiting San Francisco tomorrow. So we'll be talking a little bit more about that one tomorrow. But Wade, your Astros, hottest team in June, as it turned out, after scoring 5 runs in extras last night yesterday, to defeat the Mets 10-5.
Yeah. Don't know where that came from. Don't know how that happened, but hey, we'll take it. They went into that showdown. We hyped it up last week before we got out of here, talking about how crazy it was going to be for 2 teams just smack dab in the middle of the road that were playing maybe the hottest baseball of anybody, and didn't start out great. Friday night wasn't looking good. The Mets are, Jose Iglesias, not only is he having a great game on Friday, then he goes out and he does his own song. He performs his own song at the victory concert after the game. And I'm just like, well, I've seen this movie before. This is not going to be the Astros weekend. And then somehow, some way, turn things around. A couple nice wins, including a big flurry of runs in extra innings, as you mentioned a moment ago.
Yeah, battled through an almost 3-hour rain delay late last night.
9th inning, I think it came in, right?
Yeah. So big win for them. Again, getting to 42-41 on the season, over 500 for the first time after opening the year 7-19. Finished June 17-8. It's not bad.
Not bad with a ragtag kind of roster hung together by 2 packs of bubble gum, as I said last week. But they're getting it done, and we'll see if they can continue things as we get rolling into July now.
And again, former Tennessee high school standout Trey Cabbage from Granger over in East Tennessee, 2 for 5 with a 2-run double late last night. So yeah. Big win for Houston. Again, Thomas Harding told you, remain calm, all is well. And things are moving in the right direction. Now, if you could just get a little more help from Seattle and coming back to the pack.
It'd be nice. Hey, they're above 500 for the first time. Maybe, and they're playing the Blue Jays today in Canada on Canada Day. Maybe this is the villain type role that Houston, maybe this would be what propels them, get back to that kind of swaggy, villainous Astros if they could go in and spoil the holiday for the Blue Jays today. 0-0 in the second, Google tells me.
Don't look now, but the Astros are 3.5 back of Seattle coming into today.
Yeah, Seattle's kind of playing. They were just taking advantage of the situation, I feel like, more than anything. They were playing okay ball, but it just felt like everybody else in the division was so bad that somebody's got to be first, right? So they were kind of by default, and Houston has at least stepped it up in the last couple of weeks and said, hey, we're not going away. We're not just going to give it to you.
There you go.
So now it's on Seattle to kind of fend them off a little bit, it looks like.
Major League Baseball announced tweaks to the home run derby in the upcoming All-Star game. It'll take place 2 weeks from tonight in Arlington. The home run derby will ahead of the July 16th All-Star game. And there's an article on MLB.com that will probably explain a lot of this better than I can. But the biggest thing is we're getting away from the 1 versus 8, 4 versus 5 pairings in the quarterfinals. All 8 hitters will just hit, and then the top 4 hitters will be seeded for the semifinals and go from there. So it's not a knockout round until the semis, for what that's worth. You're just swinging for one of the top 4 totals in the first round to go on.
And that sounds better, right? Because you have these matchups in the very first round where one guy hits 21 and one guy hits 22, and the guy with 21 has to take a seat. At least now you go for the best 4 and move on.
4.
Sounds like.
Yep. And should there be a tie in the first round, the tiebreaker will be who had the longest home run hit in the first round. So size matters. Also, they have put pitch limits in place. You will see 40 pitches in the first round and the semis. 40 pitches or 3 minutes, whichever comes first. In the final round, it'll be 27 pitches or 2 minutes, whichever comes first. You will continue to get bonus pitches for lengthy home runs. So again, some of this is approaching territory that I'm not quite smart enough to get across. Check out the article on MLB.com. Speaking of home runs, the Orioles finished June with 60 for the month, becoming just the 3rd team in Major League Baseball to hit that total. The Yankees hit 74 in August of 19. The Braves hit 61 in June of last year. Nobody's doing this in April, Wade.
Yeah. Now the balls, they like I said, they had them in the incubator for the first month or two, just warming them up, just ready to slip them in. And now the balls are back to where they need to be. So that Baltimore is taking advantage of the situation, at least in terms of hitting. They haven't been playing that great. Talk about kind of taking advantage of the situation. Them and the Yankees have been struggling, but they've had such a big, fast start to the season. That those 2 teams are still well ahead of Boston, but neither one of them have been playing super well as a team as of late. So they have been slugging it. And we talked about streaks too. Gunnar Henderson, I did see this earlier today. He had like a 20 or 30 game on base streak that just came to an end yesterday too. We were talking about streaks a minute ago with Reynolds. So the Orioles are slugging them out. And I'll be curious to see if the rest of the league kind of starts catching up to them, or are they just some boppers there? Maybe they got Brady Anderson tucked in a uniform there.
Former Nashville Sound Bryce Terang hit a grand slam for the Milwaukee Brewers yesterday in their 7-1 win over the visiting Chicago Cubs. It was Milwaukee's 5th grand slam in their last 8 games. 4 coming during their 5-1 homestand against the Cubs and Rangers. The only other team to hit 5 grand slams over 8 games was the Slam Diego Padres of 2020, who kind of had 3 different overlapping stretches of that type. 5 grand slams in 8 games. That is
and you know, there's a lot that goes into that too, right? I mean, it's a random stat in a sense, but just to have the guys on base in those positions is kind of what makes it interesting as well.
Getting guys on base in those positions and getting guys that can drive the ball out of the park with those guys on base is pretty wild to do it 5 times over 8 games. So
here's a tweet that I just saw in an article, a Brewers blog. How about this, Mo? 25% of Bryce Terang's career home runs have been grand slams. Now, this guy doesn't hit a lot of home runs, but when he does, there's a lot of people on base.
There you go. Hey, timely hits.
Timely hitting. 25% of his career home runs. Talk about right place, right time for the former Sound.
There you go. Hey, that's our number 1 of the Monday Mirror here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back for our number 2, vroom, vroom. Let's talk a little racing when we return to the Lee Company studios after this.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers. Putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We are Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. This is hour number 2 of the Monday Mirror as we come to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective abodes. And Wade, wearing the garb of the Ally 400 winner from last night over in Gladeville, Joey Logano, who, as Larry Woody of Main Street Sports put it, came across the finish line on his last drop of gas to win a 5 overtime race last night. Working overtime, clearly. Sounds like a heck of a battle all race and a heck of a finish.
Yeah, crazy. And I was watching up until about the, what was it, 81, 82-minute weather delay, and kind of tuned out after that and never returned. But until I started seeing reports that this thing was getting crazy. They go 31 laps past their original scheduled 300, and you're right, Larry dialed it best. 110 laps total on his last full tank. And yeah, how crazy is that? Basically, they have this thing down to almost a science. You come across, you're not making it around the track one more time if you don't win it on that last lap right there.
That's pretty amazing. Like you said, just how to the drop they have that figured out. Some folks got into each other late in this one. I think there were 10 cars that didn't finish due to collisions, but and some of them were running up front until late, including Hendersonville's Josh Berry, I think. So a lot of prospective winners got knocked out, but Logano managing to stay the course. Lack of gas and all. So.
Yeah, hanging tough. And you mentioned tough break for Josh Berry. And I was following our buddy Blaine Keller from Main Street. You know, he was there, and I was keeping tabs on Josh really through Blaine's tweets, and just a tough situation because, you know, he wanted to put on such a good show, but spinning out. And that's the unfortunate thing. That's a frustrating thing. And that's why I really don't get too attached to NASCAR and motorsports, because you could have everything dialed up exactly right, and if one little thing goes wrong with not even your car, but another car, poof, that could end your whole day. And man, that's got to be frustrating.
Absolutely. Logano started 26th in the field of 38.
Wow.
Persistence, I guess. Perseverance, right? And crew chief Paul Wolf made the decision to stay out there in the 5th overtime despite the gas situation. So he said it was close, but we got to go for it. There was a lot of pressure and then a lot of relief. We weren't the best car out there. So to your point, it ain't always the best car. And
more of attrition.
And I would imagine that is a little frustrating. But Logano, Zane Smith, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Preece, and Chris Buescher were your top 5. Ryan Blaney, Bubba Wallace, Larson, and Daniel Henrik, followed by Noah Gragson. So that was your top 10. Hamlin 12th. I think he was up front before he kind of got knocked around late as well. So it was, as you said, a war of attrition to some degree in this one. But fun to watch. So people got what they came for, and they got a lot of it. Again, 5 overtimes in this one. So
yeah, made up for the delay. It was looking rough, and my sister went, a couple of friends went, and some stayed, some left early. I mean, it was kind of a mixed bag, but by and large, I think NASCAR's got to be pleased. We'll talk with Heather Williams, later this week about that. Reading up, I didn't watch any of the Xfinity series or any of the truck action on Friday or Saturday, but by and large, I did see it was another sellout, though. So, I mean, if you put a lot of stock in that, or if you put any stock in that, by and large, it seems like another successful weekend for the execs, at least. And even though there was that delay, it kind of makes up for it in the sense that you get a crazy finish that goes into not just one, but 5 overtimes and a wild ending to that one. So I think NASCAR folks got to be pleased with their efforts here in Music City.
Absolutely. John Hunter Nemechek gets the Xfinity win on Saturday night after, again, starting 15th. Obviously worked his way up through the field. Beat Chandler Smith by less than a half second, 0.366 specifically. So, and let's see. Jesse Love was third. Gregson finished 5th, so he did double duty. So did AJ Allmendinger, who finished 7th on Saturday night. Tyler Reddick finished 14th. So Saturday had some hot drivers in it as well. And looking for the results from the truck race out there. Yeah, I mean, it was a great weekend of racing, and as we mentioned, I guess last week, there will be more racing out at Gladeville here as the Grand Prix relocates out there here in another couple months, I guess.
Yeah, the Indy Series will be moving out to Gladeville as we broke it down last week, and depending on who you ask, a lot of folks think that's going to be a quote unquote better race in terms of the race quality. Not as many starts and stops due to wrecks that you might see. Yeah, you don't have the spectacle that goes into racing downtown and coming across the bridge. And I've been at the last couple downtown, and man, it is fun, but it is not a lot of fun when you're talking about constant starting and stopping with the wrecks and with the caution. So I think a lot of folks from a pure racing standpoint are excited to see it on a track because presumably you're not going to have those issues, right? And so Gladeville could be on the come up, and it seems like Nashville is continuing to be a quality option for the world of motorsports.
Well, with Nashville being the it city that it has become, everybody's looking for a reason to be here. So it helps when you've got events like this and events that have track records don't hurt either. Christian X, Eckes, Eckes, I don't know, won the Rackley Roofing 200 truck event on Friday night. The New Yorker got up on pole sitter Stuart Friesen early and stayed up once he got out there. His 3rd win of the year in the trucks. So big win for the youngster to get things started on Friday night. He is followed by Daniel Dye, Corey Him. Raja Karuth comes in 4th, and Tyler Ankrum 5th in the truck race on Friday to get things started. So, yeah, big weekend over in Gladeville. A lot of fun. And other than last night's delay, the weather pretty well held off, I guess. So that's always huge.
Yeah, and it was crazy, Mo, because it looked like I mean, they restarted the entire race as far as their television coverage yesterday. And, it was akin to the Braves. Hey, sit tight. We got this Andy Griffith rerun for 6 hours about to show you. Because I was up here in Nashville, and it was looking grim. And a lot of the footage from Gladeville was looking grim, but only an 80, I say only, but only an 81-minute delay because it looked like it was going to be 5, 6, 7 hours. But they were pretty confident that it was going to clear out, and at some point they were going to get the race in. So that's always the goal, because we have seen, obviously, it's never fun when you kind of have to abandon and just finish. And going back to Logano, I'm reading some of his quotes. You mentioned, there wasn't a drop to spare, he says. And then he also talks about it was a big risk, because if he didn't get that win and he does run out of gas, he's probably going to fall back to, in the 20s, it sounds like. And that kind of dents his playoff chances, which is everybody's kind of, in goal, presumably. And so the fact that he kind of made that calculated gamble, not just winning the race, but now punching that playoff berth, it paid off in spades for him yesterday, it sounds
Absolutely. Yeah. Clinched a playoff berth with that win. And, from a points perspective, that not winning probably would have hampered him, significantly. So yeah, you make a heck of a point there. Good to go ahead and get that playoff berth locked down for Joey Logano with that win at the Ally 400 last night. Let's go ahead and take a break here on Main Street Sports Today. When we return, we'll be talking a little high school football. Stay tuned when we come back to the Lee Company Studios after this.
Bluegrass Auction Associates is hosting another estate auction in White House, Tennessee on Saturday, July 20th at 10 a.m. Join Bluegrass as they sell the Judy Matthews Honeycutt Estate, conveniently located in the scenic Orchard Park subdivision. This beautiful estate includes both real estate and personal property, so everything must go. Everything will be sold on-site and in person, and a 10% buyer's premium is added to the final bid. So bid with confidence with Bluegrass Auction Associates, committed to excellence.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with Wade Neely. Tonight in Boston, the National Federation of High Schools will induct 11 individuals into its Hall of Fame. Among those is former Minnesota Twins catcher Joe Mauer, a three-sport standout at Cretin-Durham High School in St. Paul. Can you imagine, Wade, being a high school star and then being able to play pro ball in your hometown the way Joe Mauer did? I don't know that it gets much better than that.
No, that's good, clean living right there.
Absolutely. Takeo Spikes of Washington County High School in Sandersville, Georgia, who went on to fame at Auburn and in the NFL. Tyrone Wheatley.
Go Blue.
All right. From Dearborn Heights, Robichaux High School. So, I mean, wasn't in Ann Arbor, but it was pretty close. And Dot Ford Burrow, Joe Burrow's grandmother, who was a girls basketball standout at Smithville High School in Mississippi. Back in 1949-50, scored 82 points in a game, averaged almost 50 points a game for the season. And as this write-up says, was making headlines long before her grandson. Those are the 4 former athletes that are being recognized for their athletic heroics. Coaches and officials also being recognized, but one in particular, Gary Rankin, who has won 486 football games over his 42-year career at, again, Smith County, Riverdale, Alcoa, and at most recently Boyd Buchanan, where he had the Buccaneers in the Division II AA state championship this past fall, just a second season there. So this guy, it's amazing the numbers that he's put up over the length of time that he's done it. I mean, he's been as good as there's been to do it on the gridiron in Tennessee. And joining us to talk about him now is Stephen Hargis of the Chattanooga Times Free Press. Fresh off a trip to Omaha, by the way, Stephen Hargis.
Still haven't caught up on my sleep, Mo. So this is something you normally do when you're young and dumb in your 20s. But so David Pascal and I, when the game ended last Monday night after we'd sent the last of our stories, it was about 12:15 Eastern time. We hopped in the car and made the 13-hour drive straight back. So you can imagine it's taken a couple of days to try to catch up on the Z's. Yeah.
I'm not going to ask whose idea that was. I don't care, but it was just a bad one. But anyway,
well, enough of Nebraska. We were both ready to come home. We weren't tired. Like, you know what? Let's drive until we see mountains, and we just kind of took turns taking naps in the passenger side and the other driving, and yeah. So
you know, that's a lot of trust, though, in the one behind the wheel, because he was just as tired as the one sleeping was, regardless of who it was. But yeah, glad y'all made it back. You have seen Gary Rankin from a distance from a long time. You've seen him up a little closer this last couple of years at Boyd Buchanan. Clearly, there's nothing about this guy that doesn't say Hall of Fame. But yeah, again, the opportunity to watch him up close, what's that been like?
I mean, his attention to detail, guys, is something unlike, you know, and you talk to all of his assistant coaches and from his time at Alcoa and even now at Boyd Buchanan, they all kind of echo the same thing, that every moment of practice is detailed. Every moment of pregame is detailed. Everything about him is organized and detailed. And to see him take a team that just a handful of years ago was struggling to win a game. I mean, not struggling to make the playoffs. They were struggling to win a football game. And a couple of years later, he's got them in the Blue Cross Bowl. And now they are, you know, with what they've got coming back, they should be, again, one of the favorites to at least get there. I mean, just to see how quickly he can turn a program around has been the most impressive thing. Because, you know, from a distance, I saw him when he was at Riverdale. I saw him when he was at Alcoa. You know, you saw the things he did. You heard about the things he did. But to actually now for him to be working in our city and at Boyd Buchanan to, you know, to be over there for practices and games and kind of see how he operates and see it up close and personal, it's very, very impressive.
I know Wade is glad to see him at Boyd Buchanan and not at Alcoa, just from the standpoint that they were such a nemesis for Giles County for such a period of time.
Yeah, you ripping some Band-Aids and some wounds open there with that comment. But and Stephen, that's what I wanted to ask is, when the move goes down and he takes over at Boyd Buchanan, everybody kind of maybe assumed that there would be this natural progression, right? But you're talking about a guy who's been coaching for 40 plus years. To me, I was a little curious if it would be an immediate kind of turn of the switch, and kind of based on what you've told us today, but also what we've seen in wins and losses, seems like he's just kind of picked up right where he's left off. And that is just what is mind blowing to me. The fact that he's just instantly kind of created this special gig for a program that was struggling just a few years prior to his arrival, like you said, or a year prior to his arrival.
Yeah, when you consider, I mean, someone who's done anything, I mean, I can tell you 34 years plus of being a sports writer, I've certainly slowed down. I mean, sometimes my give a damn isn't what it used to be. I mean, there were times where I didn't, necessarily take all of my vacation days because I thought I need to be, there's an event coming up that I need to do. But now as you get older, you kind of go, I'm going to let some of the younger guys handle that, and I'm going to take my days off. You don't see that. I mean, one of the things Gary said early on, and he's proven to be right, he doesn't have any other hobbies. He doesn't hunt. He doesn't fish. He doesn't, really golf or do any of that kind of stuff. Football is not just his job. It's his hobby. And so he spends every waking minute. He told me once that even on vacations, he's thinking about, okay, when I come back from vacation, I'm spending time with my family, but when I get back, we need to do better with this, or this in practice or in the weight room or whatever. Constantly thinking about how to be better at his job and improve. And he's got that, that desire that kind of drives him to always be the best. It bothers him. Last year when they finished runner up and everybody was bragging about the job he had done to get that program turned around, one of the things that stuck out to me was he told me just how much it aided him that they didn't finish the job and win the state championship. He was tired of people patting him on the back for finishing second. He didn't like that. He wanted to get back and win it.
So what you're telling me, Stephen, is it's a good thing that this is going on during the dead period, or else he may not have gone.
Yeah, exactly. The timing is right. Yeah. He'd feel like he's falling further behind, hey, I'm sure someone else out there is getting a leg up on us if this was during the not during the dead period. It's a good point, Mo.
Again, and Boyd Buchanan, Stephen, is a program that has had football success. So it's not necessarily that it's out of the realm, but they had fallen on some hard times, and he comes in and I know it wasn't just flip a switch, but at the same time, it's just business as usual for this guy. Is it just as simple as the attention to detail and getting that, I hate the phrase, but getting that buy-in from the guys involved, from the assistants down?
I think that's where it started. His first year there, one of the things that I went over for a practice early on, and there were some guys who he had told them before the workout started that everybody wears the same shirt, the same color. That day, if it's gray, if it's blue, whatever, everybody wears the same color shirt for workouts. Everybody, basically your uniform from workouts through everything else. Well, that day there were a couple of kids who were running extra, and he was telling me it was because they had worn a different color shirt than what they were supposed to wear at workouts. So he was teaching them, laying that foundation of teaching them, this is how we win, is we focus on the little things. It goes from there to not turning the ball over, not committing penalties, all those kinds of things. And that's how the first season when they won, I think went from, hardly winning a game to his first season, they were winning 7 games and making the playoffs. And it was basically not a lot of talent, but it was that attention to detail where they didn't turn the ball over in the red zone. They didn't commit penalties to hurt themselves. They did all the little things to give themselves, to kind of shorten the game and give themselves a chance to be in there in the fourth quarter and win some of those really close games. By the second year, obviously the name recognition, Boyd Buchanan is a really good school. So they were getting some better talent to kind of follow him to Boyd Buchanan, kids that wanted to go to school there, wanted to play for Gary Rankin. And so when there was an uptick in talent and he didn't change any of the things, that the attention to detail that he had, now all of a sudden you go from 7 wins to playing for a state championship. So yeah, it's kind of that foundation of things that we're going to do everything the right way, the small things first, and then that'll kind of build up to everything else. And then once you start getting the talent and you add that on top of doing things, everything right, then you have this mega success that they've had under him last year.
Yeah,
Stephen, go ahead. Go ahead, Wade. I'm sorry.
And Stephen, sorry, Mo. That's the only thing that I was going to say there too is, yeah, you're not getting recognized for this award, obviously, if you're a great guy and a good coach, but you have the complete opposite record. If he's 85 and 456 or whatever, he's probably not going in the National Hall of Fame. But what can you speak to, or what can you share about also, especially having done this for 40 years, the life lessons that he's teaching these kids, and kind of for a program that had fallen on hard times, as Mo just said, kind of teaching them some new ways of looking at life and creating strong quality role model, being a strong quality role model for these young men now.
I remember when Boyd Buchanan hired him, and I called Ronnie Carter, who's the former TWSAA executive director, because I knew Ronnie had worked with him a lot, and just kind of said, "Hey, I know Gary just a little, on the fringe of when we would cover them when they were in the playoffs or that kind of thing. What can you tell me about him?" And he was telling me that when Gary was about to be hired at Alcoa, and Ronnie had been contacted by some of the administrators there and asked about him, and he said, "Listen, the football stuff, let's set that aside. He's going to win in football because he's a really good football coach. But what you're going to see is when he walks the halls of your school, all the kids, even the non-football players, are going to want to be better because he's going to stop and talk to them and check on grades, attendance, home life. If he has this way about him where you can kind of tell if a kid is kind of standoffish, maybe they've got something going on. Maybe he'll go to an assistant coach and say, check on this kid, or a teacher, hey, what's going on with this kid? Like, he's just in tune with constantly trying to make even the kids who didn't play football. Ronnie said that's what he had been told by the folks at Smith County, at Riverdale, that when he walked the halls, he made the entire school better, just because he was such a people person and kind of checking on everybody, making sure they were doing the right things in the classroom, when they left school, outside of being just in the community. And kind of that same thing. A couple of the dads after the first season that I talked to, that I kind of knew these guys who were former players at Boyd Buchanan, or just dads in general, and asked them, what's something that stood out to you? And they said the first thing really wasn't the on-field results. It was more of the way that Gary had these kids kind of their classroom their classroom performance improved, their attendance improved, things away from school improved. Like, they started being better young men, aside from just being better football players. And they credited so much of that to the influence that Gary Rankin had, because that, it goes back to that attention to detail of doing everything right on the football field, on the practice field, in the classroom. When you leave here, you represent, he would tell them constantly, you don't represent just Boyd Buchanan or just yourself. You represent your mom and dad. What's your last name? Your last name's Smith, Jones, whatever. You're John and Martha Smith's son. You represent your family when you go out there. So whatever decisions you make tonight when you're hanging out with your friends, it's going to be a good or bad reflection on your family. Remember that. And so, kids, a lot of times they need to be reminded of that over and over again, because I know when I was 15 and 16, I didn't always remember, the better judgments that I should have been making. But when you have somebody like that you look up to, who's constantly kind of pounding that into your head, maybe you do make some better life choices when you're out there, and that in turn makes you a better person.
With all of the accolades, the most important measure of success with Coach Rankin is the type of impact he has had on the lives of the thousands of players he has coached. He is a man of integrity who expects nothing less than the absolute best from his kids. That's a quote attributed to current TWSAA Executive Director Mark Reeves regarding tonight's National Federation of High Schools Hall of Fame inductee Gary Rankin. Stephen Hargis of the Chattanooga Times Free Press joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by TOA of Columbia. Again, 486 and 85 over 42 seasons. His next state title, and there will be one, will be his 18th. He's also had 7 state runner-up finishes. He's coached 19 Mr. Footballs. It's, kind of amazing to look back over his career, and the fact that, Stephen, both you and I, and all three of us have had opportunities to cover this guy. I mean, it's not like a Boyce Smith at Springfield or some of these other legends that we've heard about. We've been there. I was I was on the sidelines for one of his few losses down at Cleveland in the playoffs back in the early 90s. I mean, we've seen this guy at work, and to see him, reach this honor is really kind of cool.
Yeah, and Mo, I mean, a couple of things that stand out just off the top of my head is he ranks top 4, I think, nationally, all time for career wins for a high school football coach, and then I think he's been to the semifinals 25 or 26 times, and of those times he's only lost twice. So you think about, you get to that level, you get to the semifinals, and you only lose 25, 26 times. You only lose 2 times of all those. That's amazing to me, because now you're playing, you're in the top 4 of your classification, still left playing that year, and you find a way to win 24 of that 26 or 23 of the 25. I can't remember the specific, but it's at least 25 times in the semifinals and only to lose twice. That's one of the more amazing stats that I can remember when we were doing our story on him before he was inducted. Was just, you think about that kind of success. How many coaches would love to get to the semifinals just once, and he's been there 25 times, and then he doesn't just get there and is satisfied. He, that goes back to the hunger, the need within him to win it all. He finds a way, because 25 times, they weren't always. Now at Alcoa, a lot of times they were the best team. They weren't every single time they weren't the best team, but he always found a way. Boyd Buchanan, I wagered a bet they were not the best team last year in the semifinals, but they found a way. He found a way to get them there.
And a lot of that, Stephen, is just, you convincing your kids that we're going to find a way to get it done, because kids are smart. And like you said, they probably knew that they weren't always the best team, but you've got that confidence, you've got that belief that, if if we do what he tells us, we're going to be all right.
Yeah. I mean, kids, like you said, kids are smart enough. They know the resume. I mean, they may not know the specific number of wins, but they know, hey, this is a guy who's in multiple Hall of Fames. He's won, 17 state championships or whatever. I mean, they know about what he's done. They know he's won more than 400 games. I mean, they've been told by dads and uncles and, people in the community. So they're smart enough to know, I'm going to do what this guy says, because if I do, we're going to win a lot of football games. We're going to be successful because he's got that track record of having done it. So, yeah, I think, so much of that, like you said, how many times have we seen momentum shift in a football game just because a kid believes something? Like all of a sudden, one play will go their way, a turnover, a big play, something goes their way where they start to believe in themselves. Now, imagine starting every game with that belief that, hey, we're going to win because we prepared better, harder. We've got a better coach, and we've got the best coach of all time. You've got that kind of confidence that you go into a game. You start a game off like that, and that you're already a leg up on everybody else.
And I will tell you something else. I think it works the opposite for the other team as well.
Sure. Yeah. So, yeah. How many times do you see, back in, I remember when Cleveland was winning 3 straight state championships in the 90s, a lot of times the teams that would walk on the field and you would see the heads turning to watch Cleveland warm up because they just wanted to see. They had heard about, Cleveland's won 54 straight games. There was this kind of awe around them. So you imagine, when Gary's out there, how many of the coaches, let alone the opposing players, opposing coaches are looking down at him going, okay, I got to match wits with this guy tonight. Yeah, there's something to be said for that for sure.
Absolutely. Stephen Hargis of the Chattanooga Times Free Press joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Stephen, we appreciate it. How was Omaha? I mean, obviously you got out of there in a hurry, but clearly you got to see something pretty special.
It was good. I mean, Mo, it's one of those things. I'd never gone. I'd never been. I had been a college baseball fan since the mid '80s. The first year I remember watching the College World Series was around '84. A couple of buddies, we were just out of high school for the summer, got pizza, after hanging out playing wiffle ball all day or whatever, got pizza and started watching the games. And I just remember thinking, how cool would it be to go out there to Rosenblatt Stadium and watch one of those? Well, obviously it's not Rosenblatt anymore, but to get to go out there, that's a bucket list thing for any sports fan. So that was really cool just to be out there and kind of, walk around the stadium, walk around the grounds, talk to people who'd been there, before, and kind of get some of the ins and outs of things you definitely want to do. The first thing we did when we got there Friday, before Tennessee and Texas A&M started playing, we got there, checked in the hotel, and we just walked downtown, just kind of strolled around the whole. Spent about a couple hours just walking around, talking to people, and it was just one big party, obviously, and just want to kind of soak it all in because we knew for the rest of the weekend we'd be covering games, but we just kind of wanted to soak it in for a little bit, and that was really neat. I would highly recommend. I found so many father-son tandems, whether they be Tennessee or Texas A&M fans or just not fans of either team. They just had decided this is something we want to go do together. Grown men who were taking their fathers who might be in their 70s, or dads who were in their 40s taking their teenage sons, or that kind of thing. It was a lot of that. You saw lots and lots of that kind of stuff, and just a really neat atmosphere all around. Highly recommend anybody to just go out there and soak in just one game, much less the entire weekend of the championship series. Yeah, it was fun. We were tired. We were hot. It was 101 degrees, I think, at first pitch on the last day. So we'd seen enough of it. We were homesick and ready to come home. But certainly, it's something I would hop in the car and make the 13-hour drive again and go back and do again.
What time did y'all get back?
Around 12:30, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I ate lunch, laid down and took about a 2-hour nap, got up, wrote one more column, took a shower, and then went to bed around 6:30 and was done for the rest of the day till the next day.
And been catching up ever since.
We've been catching up ever since, yeah.
Stephen, we appreciate it, man.
Thanks, guys. Y'all do great stuff.
Stephen.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, look forward to catching up with you again soon. All right. Hey, when we return to Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, it's our last segment of the day here on the Monday Mirror. It's the grab bag. So stay tuned when we come back to the Lee Company Studios after this.
Bluegrass Auction Associates is hosting another estate auction in White House, Tennessee on Saturday, July 20th at 10 a.m. Join Bluegrass as they sell the Judy Matthews Honeycutt Estate, conveniently located in the scenic Orchard Park subdivision. This beautiful estate includes both real estate and personal property, so everything must go. Everything will be sold on-site and in person, and a 10% buyer's premium is added to the final bid. So bid with confidence with Bluegrass Auction Associates, committed to excellence.
As we said, it's the final segment of the Monday Mirror here on Main Street Sports Today. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. And tough loss for the Nashville Soccer Club Saturday night over at Geodis. Got down 2-0 early to Inter Miami. Got on the board, but could never get the equalizer and fell 2-1. Again, no Messi, but that was hardly an issue.
Yeah, no Messi, no Suarez, no problem. As Inter Miami kind of has had Nashville's number. All the matches have been pretty close, but NSC has kind of been snake bit by these guys the last couple of meetings, and it was unfortunate because, like we mentioned with Valaire last week on our kind of preview for the weekend, that Nashville been on a little bit of a roll, playing well, and you're thinking, all right, their big guns are out, and Nashville's, as Valaire told us, they're missing a few guys as well due to international duty right now, but they still, in theory, have more of their big guys on the roster in terms of availability, and they still couldn't get it done. Losing at home is unfortunate. Nashville had this was the part that will make you rip your hair out too, Mo. I mean, on paper, had more of your scoring chances, more of your quality scoring chances, but that doesn't always lead to goals, and they fall 2-1 at home. And it was really kind of fortunate in that regard that it was 2-1. I think they got a PK late. Otherwise, you're talking about Nashville getting shut out at home.
Yeah, they did have a PK late for their only goal by Mukhtar, I think it was. But yeah, that's a tough one. I'm got caught a little off guard. I'm trying to figure out when they play again. Do you know that off the top of your head, Wade?
I don't, but I can't. Well, yeah, they play Wednesday. They got the Columbus Crew on the road. They got Portland on the road on Sunday, and then they go to DC next Saturday. So they got a
Oh,
3-match
goodness.
road swing coming up, and versus 3 really tough places to play. Well, 2 really tough places to play. No offense to DC, but Columbus and Portland have really been kind of tough places over the years to go in and get results. So they'll have some work cut out for them. And that was the unfortunate thing is you're thinking, all right, and that's kind of been the theme for Nashville all season long is when it looks like things are trending in their direction and they should get a result or should get a win even, they kind of lay an egg. And Saturday, as talented as Miami is, and they're still talented, I'm not trying to diminish the rest of the guys that are still there, but obviously Suarez and Messi get a lot of the attention, and rightfully so. But on paper, that's one you're thinking, all right, this is maybe a really good shot for us to get some points. And Nashville comes up with nothing, unfortunately. So Columbus, Portland, and DC before they get back in Nashville mid-July versus Orlando.
Columbus 4th in the Eastern Conference of MLS at 9-6-3. So at least maybe they get the toughest one out of the way first.
Maybe, yeah. And kind of to that point, though, I mean, we saw it a couple of weeks ago versus Cincinnati. I mean, when you count Nashville out on the other side of things, when you count them out, they're due to get a draw at least, or maybe snag 1 point, or maybe even spring a win on you. So maybe we'll be thinking good vibes for them on Wednesday.
There we go. We've talked a lot about Texas A&M baseball here over the past week, beginning with their national championship appearance against eventual national champion Tennessee. And then their coach bailing on them to take the job at the University of Texas. Well, they have named Jim Schlossnagel's successor, and they didn't have to go far to find him. Michael Early, who had been the team's hitting coach and had originally taken off to join the staff at Texas, is now back in College Station. He's been there for the past 3 seasons as their hitting coach, and their offense has been one of the best in the country under him, particularly this past year when 4 of those guys made All-Americans. So I think probably the biggest plus for A&M in this situation is they get somebody who can kind of, has some familiarity and can kind of continue what's been going on there just in terms of retaining guys in this age of transfer portal and that kind of thing. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. But Michael Early, former hitting coach at A&M, is now the head guy.
Yeah, that's what jumps out to me, Mo, is, this guy can coach, and it's his first head coaching gig. But more than anything, keeping and retaining as much of that roster as you can. With so many guys did get in the portal. Not to say, obviously, that they couldn't come back, though. So doing whatever you can do to maintain as much of that roster, which is obviously extremely talented, given how far they went and had the success they had this season. Whatever you can do to maintain that is fantastic. So that, to me, if nothing else, is the key piece of this.
Absolutely. And it's going to be a lot easier for a guy that those players are familiar with to, like you said, retain the bulk of that roster as opposed to somebody else coming in that they don't know and having to re-recruit all of those guys. So definitely a step in the right direction for A&M with the announcement that Michael Early, former hitting coach, will be their head coach. So, Wade, I don't know if you saw this. Former LSU, former Raiders. I almost said Oakland Raiders, but I don't know which Raiders he was with. So, former LSU quarterback Jamarcus Russell is being sued down in Mobile, his hometown, in relation to a $74,000 donation to the football program at Williamson High School, his alma mater, that they did not get. Russell had joined the coaching staff at his alma mater in 2018. He was removed as a volunteer assistant mid-year last year. And it just jumped out to me. How do you get fired as a volunteer assistant? But
yeah, that's tough.
Apparently, again, someone had made a $74,000 donation to the football program at Williamson, handed Russell the check, which he deposited into his account at a local credit union.
Man,
Yeah. Apparently, a lifelong LSU fan had been approached by Russell a couple of summers ago about a donation to help with weight room equipment. Again, this guy wrote a $74,000 check, but then stopped payment on it when Russell wouldn't provide a receipt of the donation and quit returning his phone calls,
oof.
according to WKRG TV out of Mobile.
Yeah, not a great look for the former Raider, as you mentioned. And
Yeah.
this is one of those stories that popped up on I got a notification on my phone, and I saw it, and it was a suggested, X had sent me the notification. Hey, here's a hot story, and I was just assuming or praying that it was fake news. A lot of those suggested stories end up being fake news, and I was just like, man, please don't let this be right. But unfortunately, it does not look good for Jamarcus.
No. So Russell has been sued. Russell has countersued, and he admits to depositing the check but denies wrongdoing. Not quite sure how that works. Oakland's top pick in 2007 played 3 years with the Raiders. 18 touchdowns, 23 picks. Earned $36 million plus over his career. It's being sued over $74,000. That's tough.
Went from Oakland giving him blank videotapes to having blank checks that now no longer get cashed. Unfortunately, tough look for Jamarcus, man.
It's not a good look for Jamarcus at all. Staying in the NFL, a bit more successful quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, apparently, and I did not know this until I saw this article. Active NFL players are prohibited from promoting alcohol. And I guess that makes sense. But Patrick Mahomes is doing something with Coors Light and has been. He has filmed a Coors Light commercial that will be buried in a time capsule, only to be unveiled once he eventually retires from football. I guess that's one way around it.
That is a creative way to get around that. I salute the hustle there.
Oh, he is shown in the secret ad crawling atop the Coors Light chill train. Halfway through it, the commercial is interrupted by a producer who informs him that he's not permitted to endorse beer, even if his ad is really cool and high stakes. This is the third thing that Mahomes and Coors Light have done, apparently. And they're going to Coors Light is going to host a live stream of the time capsule burial later this week. So if you want to check that out, you can. But like I said, this is the third straight year that Mahomes and Coors Light have teamed up. They did an ad for the Coors Light, a flashlight resembling a Coors Light can, and he promoted the Coors Light Bear, a grizzly bear, 0% adult beverage, 100% mammal, and deemed the world's most refreshing bear. So Mahomes and Coors Light getting creative
right?
too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and again, like you said, you can't knock the hustle. And I don't know, anytime somebody kind of gets one over on the NFL, you got to kind of like that. So
I'm really shocked if this will remain, hidden in the world of digital and leaks. There's no way this doesn't get leaked at some point between now and the time he retires, right?
You got to think. You got to think. Um, yeah, we talked about Vanderbilt discus thrower Victoria Fraley, who is now U.S. Olympian Victoria Fraley. She will be going to Paris in the discus. She will not be competing in the shot put. However, trials for that discipline were Friday out in Oregon, and she placed just outside of the 12 that would advance to the finals on Saturday. Both she and former Brentwood Academy standout Mincy Stiff fell short of making the finals in the shot put. Fraley finished 14th. Her best throw was 17.47 meters. Stiff, who throws for Ole Miss now, her best throw was 17.38 meters. So again, they were 14th and 15th. The top 12 advanced to the finals with 6 from there clinching spots to go to Paris. So I mean, tough to be too disappointed because she is still going again in the discus. So you'll take it.
Yeah, you want to compete as much as possible, but also when you get to Paris, you're probably thinking it'd be nice to have some downtime. Olympic
Right.
Village wouldn't be a bad place to hang out, famously. So maybe a little more downtime is not the end of the world.
Yeah. Wade, you talked about Team USA losing to Japan in American football last week. Well, Team USA also lost to Austria in American football over the weekend.
Fire the coach.
Well, I tried to
Break
do a
up the
little.
team.
I tried to do a little research on this, and again, this is an under 20 team, and there weren't any names that I really recognize. There's a bunch of kids from prep schools and that kind of thing. I mean, there's not like our top collegians or anything like that competing for Team USA in this, but they lost 41-20 to Japan. They were down 27-0. And then they lost 32-25 to Austria during this competition in Edmonton, Alberta. Austria becoming the first European team to win a medal. I guess that was for bronze there. So,
man, we got French guys going in the NBA draft #1 the last couple of years. Now we're losing in football. It's tough out here.
It is.
It
really is. I'm not sure. I guess firing the coach might be a step, but that's
you lose to Austria. It just feels
Austria.
Like that just shouldn't happen. I mean, outside of free market economics, what are we really talking about with Austria here? You shouldn't be losing to these guys.
Well, it feels a lot like your U.S. Panama in the Copa Americas soccer competition.
This feels way worse. I mean, I feel like we could pull out Giles County and Murray County and pool together a decent enough team to go out and beat the Japanese and Austrian team.
And
surely,
Austria.
Right?
Yeah. So it's I don't know how you address this, but it needs addressing. Absolutely.
We're going to be running. We're going to switch to a triple option wishbone formation for the next World Cup. It sounds like.
Let Paul Johnson coach him. I bet.
Yeah, let's do something. Get in there. We got this. We can't stand for this.
The Austrian coach saying we didn't play our best game and the fight was gone a bit in the first half because we'd been here to compete for the gold medal, but we did enough to win. Austria didn't play their best. Yeah, Austria didn't play their best game and beat the U.S. in American football. So,
and there's chatter, at least flag or there's talk of American football at some point getting involved in the Olympics. That's when we will really flex our muscle, and we're just going to send the best and just absolutely. I hope we meet Austria on them streets, whatever Olympics that is. Say, you know what?
Yeah, send
Playtime
Tyreek
is
Hill.
over. Playtime is
Send
over.
Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, and that bunch. Yeah, yeah. Come get
Mhm.
some, Austria.
Give me
Absolutely.
that.
Top 5 Tuesday tomorrow. We will be joined by Landon Sechrist as we talk a little NBA. Their free agency period has began as well, and there's been a lot of movement. We also picked back up after missing Chip Walters last week. He will be getting us up to speed on all things MTSU. So be sure and join us at 2 o'clock tomorrow, right here from the Lee Company Studios. This is Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We will see y'all 2 o'clock.